I know that you sense with me something unusual in the air on this spring day beginning a new decade. We gather together to observe Earth Day, a day signifying our reverence and respect for the gift that creation gave to us. This Earth Day is symbolic of a change in direction for our country. By the year 1770, the young settlers on an unsullied, bountiful continent had reached the stage where they could consider embarking on an independent course. They turned their backs on the industrial civilization just expanding in Europe and plunged into the wilderness. 100 years later, young America turned from the ravages of our bloody Civil War to tame the expanses of our West. Now, 100 years later, our nation has begun to realize that we will destroy our natural heritage unless we stop the practice of waste, extravagance, and improvidence. We may have done irremediable damage to the earth on which we live. Through ignorance and inaction, we may have already proceeded to the point where 30 or 40 years from now, man will disappear from the earth. It may be that our senseless destruction of a species of marine life will also lead in turn to our senseless destruction. It is no Cassandra who speaks of the end of man, it is the ecologist. It is not enough then to talk with dire foreboding of the bleak future that could be ours. We must move beyond the first act of this drama, where we have dwelled too long, and concentrate on these policies that will enhance our natural riches. First, central to survival is a philosophy, a way of life that treats every stone, every insect, every drop of water, every plant with the love and reverence that we now lavish upon humans. We do not live free of our natural surroundings. Species have come and gone over the ages because of their inability to adjust to their habitat. We must adjust as a species or be destined to disappear with the dinosaur and the homing pigeon. Second, we need a concept that goes beyond that obvious, a concept that addresses itself to the total environment and not just to the garbage dumps that foul our landscape or the oil slicks that ooze onto our precious seashores and estuaries. We must learn to see the larger consequences of our action. There is an absolute limit, for example, to the amount of combustion that can take place within our atmosphere before the air becomes unfit to breathe, dooming us to strangulation. What is important to realize in evolving this concept of the environment is that more than ever, the past is prologue. We must learn to ask, what are the ecological consequences of our action? Third, we must recognize that planning is needed as never before. We had a margin for error in our country in the past that kept us from the consequences of our wantonness. Today and for the future, there is no substitute for planning to ensure that the actions of 200 million people by the end of the century can serve and enhance rather than destroy our environment. Unfortunately, planning has never been a strong point of our governments. There has been an artificial dichotomy between planners and doers, with the thought on the part of the doers that the planners couldn't do. We will have to shelve this attitude and undertake planning with a vengeance if we are not to be buried under mountains of trash and choked by clouds of air pollution. Fourth, we must accompany effective planning with action. We cannot paper over our problems with planning commissions. We cannot palm off our grave ecological problems with negligible research projects. We must match our rhetoric with determined implementation. We have been alerted to the dangers. We know where the internal combustion engine will lead us if other sources of power are not found. We know about the need to see that our new atomic plants do not overwhelm our bays or leak radioactivity into our atmosphere. But there are vexatious problems which have not received the attention they merit.
Not great.
Gee, if you got that, you're getting up there.
Yeah,
It was, huh?
I didn't do great.
All right. Let's see, that's 3. $150. Keeping in mind it was given at $220. Now let's see 1972 if Woody was still in the contest. $1972. I don't see him here, but maybe he wasn't in yet.